welcome to the weekly Reshuffle, our collective reading for the week ahead. This is going to be our little intuitive forecast for the week of July 28th until August 3rd. We are building the bridge into August, so we are getting ready for our monthly readings this week. We are already fixing our eyes towards Halloween. I love that we do summerween now. I know a lot of people do not like it when we rush through the seasons and the holidays, and typically I'm in agreement. But as a witchy inclined person, I love autumn. I love summerween. I love watching Halloween Town in the middle of August and roasting marshmallows by a fire and watching The Craft. I just love both of those, and I think there's something in particular about the hot, muggy Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Is that for someone? I just saw that pass by in such a strange occurrence. There's a big truck that had it looked like a Ninja Turtle on it, and he had a broom or something. So there might be something about turtles and brooms or cleaning. There might be signs for you, but I absolutely love the dog days of summer when it's hot and it's muggy and it's there's something, you know how typically during autumn we say that the veil is very thin. There's something about August where it feels like the veil is really thick. You can feel the distinction between the paranormal and the practical. It's just a really exciting time. I think for us witchy inclined people. So that is the week that we are headed into. We just did our new moon in Leo, which has been it's been really interesting. I got an ear infection, so I'm on antibiotics right now. If it ain't one thing, it's another, girl. So I'm wondering how you guys are feeling post new moon in Leo. I have a few decks, and I also have a few downloads for us today and a few Shufflemancy songs. We're coming pretty stacked this week. The first of which is we have, of course, the Wild Unknown Spirit Animal Oracle in all of its glory. We worked with the beaver spirit this morning in our meditation. So if you've been leaving it up to the beav, now's the time to jump back into line. It was actually a really interesting meditation. I felt like I learned a lot from the sacred beaver this morning. I really did. It was talking to me a lot about personal responsibility. It was talking a lot about emotional boundaries. It was really talking to me a lot about trust in the community, but also in the dominoes. You know how sometimes it's we really rely as intuitive people on the domino effect of life, and really having to trust that the dominoes fall when they're meant to. Everything has a role to play, and we have to trust that those roles will be played at the right time, so that way we can play our parts at the right time. There's this really interesting mix with the sacred beaver between personal action and accountability and faith in the collective, faith in the process. It's really interesting. So while it sounds funny that we did a meditation with the beaver this morning, I actually personally I got a lot out of it. So I hope that you guys did too. And I hope that you guys, if you do those meditations and something interesting comes out in them, I encourage you to share it with us, because you might be pulling in insights or pieces that I didn't get on my end, and I would like to learn from you too. But we did pull out this deck again for us, as always, Old Faithful. I also have the Muse Tarot as well. Very pretty, very feminine. It's a very sensitive deck. And I feel the energies this week, they feel very sensitive. They feel very tender, honestly. I wonder if there's something coming off of this new moon, that a lot of that hyper intensity, a lot of that hyper urgency, even a lot of I want to say stinging. I wonder, they're saying salt in the wound. I wonder if something recently has kind of put salt in a wound for some of you guys, and you're in this recovery or this healing or this bouncing back process, because there's definitely a sense of I want to be gentle. I want to be in my own energy. I don't want to yell to be heard. I don't want to fight for my place. I don't want to have to lock arm in arm and shoulder. It's I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to do any of that this week. So that's very much the energy of I want to be, I don't want to use the word submissive, but I definitely want to be surrendered to the flow of life. I don't want to be micromanaging the universe. I don't want to be white knuckling it. I don't want to be stressing myself out. I want to be woo-sawing, which feels like a quiet, though really impactful way to reclaim energy. So I wonder if a lot of you guys have been trying to call your energy back, doing return to senders, trying to like banish, purify, like reclaim, and even questions of like, is this me? Is this how I feel about it? Or is that just my conditioning? Or is that just the energy I'm picking up on? Have I outgrown that idea? Have I outgrown that feeling? Have I outgrown that position? And being really like thoughtful about it. It feels like it's a very thoughtful week. And 3 of the things that had come forward this week was, one, it was gentleness and forgiveness, particularly forgiveness of self. It almost feels like there are these quiet little pockets of guilt or shame. I shouldn't have done that. I should have known better. I shouldn't have said that. I wish I had reacted or responded differently. I wish I had listened the first time. I wish I had paid attention to that red flag. I wish I had made this move 6 months ago. Just all of that like woulda, coulda, shoulda, buyer's remorse, stuff that we experience, that it creates these little pockets of guilt and shame that make us want to like hide and repress. And also almost like make us feel guilty, though it is subtle enough to overlook, that we may at times find ourselves unknowingly punishing ourselves for our former crimes, our missteps, our mistakes, even if they weren't mistakes and they like actually were necessary for us to like learn a lesson or observe something interesting like within ourselves. There's still a feeling of like, there's stuff I wish I didn't do, or like there's stuff I wish I didn't say, or that I did differently. And a part of me that like wants to punish my future self for like my past self mistakes by denying myself opportunities to start over, or to try again, or to try anything at all. So there may also be quiet conversations this week about apathy, about lack of movement, stagnancy, and recognizing the ways in which we create that for ourselves, perhaps, again, through really subtle like guilting or shaming or self-punishment in a way. So with gentility, there's also a feeling of like, this is the week where like maybe the enemies externally are quite quiet, but it's kind of like the bully or like the enemy or like the little demons within that really like want to be kind of exorcised, but not with like the holy water and the shouting in Latin, but instead through like the embracing, through the hugging, through the, it's okay, I forgive you, it's not the be all and end all, like we have another chance, we're gonna bounce back, like it's gonna be all right. Some of that like, it's no sweat off my back, I'll be fine, I will bounce back from that. That kind of like practicality that like you might offer to a friend is definitely something that wants to be offered to like the little tender parts, because those tender parts, it actually feels like it's connected to inner child work based off of you, me, not being taught how to bounce back or to forgive ourselves after we made a mistake. Right? So like being little, maybe you break something, maybe you color on the walls, maybe you do something you're not supposed to do. It's met with a lot of yelling, it's met with a lot of harshness, but there's almost, and even for some of you, as I'm going back to my own childhood here, with even like a little bit of guilt tripping, like, oh, well, you were bad yesterday. So it's like never, even like the adults around you not being able to like move on from even the most minor indiscretions, or bringing them up later to embarrass you, like that kind of thing. It's almost like there's always baggage that comes with like making a mistake. And even if it's like incredibly minor, and not being modeled or shown how to like bounce back from that, how to forgive ourselves, how to brush ourselves off and try again, right? There's something about that being modeled, or that being modeled when it comes to like interpersonal dynamics. You have to forgive them, let it go, move on, but us not being taught how to like offer ourselves that same grace, that same gentility, that same forgiveness. And so I feel like part of that gentleness, that compassion, that self-forgiveness is actually kind of under the umbrella of a bit of reparenting. And they're saying that may have to actually apply to this new moon in Leo. So I would pay attention to your birth chart and where you have Leo placements sitting, and maybe do a little research in there if you're not super familiar with them, because again, astrology, it's a very in-depth discipline. It's like a lot for all of us to learn who are like not full and proper astrologists. So you might want to poke in and do a little research and go, oh, I have Leo in the 4th house. Actually, yeah, I could see how my mistake was made to feel like I was letting the whole family down, or I was undermining the stability of everyone. Right? I don't have Leo in the 4th house. That's just coming forward for me. Maybe one of you do. But something else, kind of in conjunction with that had come through this week was about consistency, and a gentle consistency. There's a note here about sometimes we try to put ourselves on a new timeline or a new track or restart consistency, but we do it at such like a high intense level that we set ourselves up for failure, because it's almost impossible to sustain, especially when there isn't like a lower like foundation built underneath it, right? So if you're like, I'm gonna hit the pedal to the metal, but like you're not used to driving at 30 miles per hour, well, you're definitely not going to be able to maintain like 50, 60 miles per hour. We're not going to be able to maintain the left lane on this highway, right? It's like we need to like build up to that. And so there's definitely a feeling of a lot of stagnation and a lot of paralysis also coming from putting too much pressure on ourselves. And they keep talking about 1% every day. Can we take this week? Can we be consistent in the things that we want to do, in the things that we gotta do, and the things that maybe even we would like to add in, but like maybe let's not try and do everything all at once. Maybe we just try today to do 1%, a little bit more than we did yesterday. And maybe that 1% is sitting in the self-care. Maybe that 1% is sitting outside without our phones for 45 minutes, or for even 8 minutes while we're waiting for water to boil when we're making dinner, right? Maybe that 1% is taking 20 minutes at the end of the day and answering the emails that you would probably forget for like 3 days, which is totally something that's like I'm working on, is responding to emails. So bad at it. The ADHD, it is crippling. I swear. Actually, I got these. I don't know why I'm showing you this. I got these. So I just recently started, we're going on a tangent now, just know that. I recently started using Charlotte's Web, like the CBD gummies. And I've been really liking them. It's like lemon balm and CBD. There's no like psychoactives. There's no THC. And I like them a lot for combating anxiety. And they also have sleep gummies that are like melatonin and CBD. And I don't know what else is in it, like valerian root, something like that. They're incredible. I love them. But they sent me like this sample pack, and it's lion's mane mushroom gummies. They say tangerine flavor, but I'm gonna be honest with you, these don't taste like tangerine. They taste like shit. They taste so fucking bad to me. Maybe they taste good as well. They taste so bad to me. But they're supposed to help with like focus. So I'm just thinking about like maybe one of you have like a unmedicated ADHD and you're trying to like figure it out. I think maybe lion's mane is like helpful for you. I've only tried these like once, so I can't really say, but again, like maybe my 1% is like trying to take these like lion's mane mushroom gummies and like answer emails at the end of the day. It's just like 1% better, 1% like extra. And that idea of like, well, the difference between extra and ordinary is that little something something, right? But again, it might be through self-care. It might be through saying no to something so you could say yes to something you would rather do. Maybe it's that one extra chore at the end of the day. Maybe it's like that one extra post that you put on your feed. But just tiny, small, why are we killing ourselves, right? Like that's just kind of like the name of the game. And then another message that had come through really prominently when I was eating breakfast, actually, and it came through again in the Shufflemancy, because the first song that came on it's actually like a Christian pop song. It's called Father's House by Corey Asbury, and it related to the message I got while I was eating breakfast about standing and being seated in peace. There's a lot in scripture that talks about God, the blessing, wanting to meet you in a place of peace. And the conversation that I was having with Spirit this morning is, well, great, but like, what does it actually mean? Like, when it says that God wants to meet us in peace, what is like peace? Like, what are the components of it? And they explained it to me in a few different ways, one of which they had told me years ago, and I guess it just hasn't been like top of mind. The idea here is that this week they're saying a trickling effect of different manifestations coming in, maybe a little bit of good luck here. For instance, I got lucky when I went to the doctor for my ear, and I thought I was gonna have like a copay. I thought I was gonna have something to pay, right? And I didn't, and I was really grateful for that because I was stressing about it. But I didn't have to pay for my appointment. I didn't have to pay for my prescription. I didn't have to pay I didn't have to pay. It was really nice. It was like a nice little thing for me, because my ear really hurt. So it was like two birds, right? But you this week may have little things like that, where maybe you don't have to pay for something you thought you had to, or a problem mysteriously like just resolves itself, or maybe there is an opportunity, right? A thread for you to pull. Maybe there's something small, something joyous, something favorable, something good for us this week. And I feel like part of it is to help give us like positive exposure when you're used to like very consistent challenges, one thing after another. We tend to get like suspicious or even subconsciously like push away even the possibility for breakthrough, right? We're like, yeah, fat chance. And so I do feel like there's some positive exposure therapy that like the divine is doing for us this week, showing us like, hey, like, you know what? Princess Diaries, miracles do happen once in a while when you believe, right? Keep your chin up here. And the idea is these things are finding us in these moments of peace. And it's important for you to connect when something comes in to how you're emotionally and energetically positioned when it comes in. So the idea is when something finds you in peace, a blessing, God, an opportunity, whatever it may be, when we're in peace, it means that when it comes in, we're not starved, we're not super stressed, we're not desperate. And so when the blessing comes, we won't squeeze it to death. Think about like if you are dying of thirst, right? You're super dehydrated, you haven't had any water all day, you've been too busy working, you haven't had just a second to stop to like have a drink, go to the bathroom, whatever. And so what happens when you finally get that moment? You are chugging, you're chugging, or you're sitting in the bathroom at work with your cell phone and you're going, oh my God, I just need to sit here for a few extra moments, right? It's like you really fucking milk it. And when we have something, maybe it's a little bit of money, maybe it's love, maybe it's whatever, an opportunity, and we squeeze the hell out of it, right? This is my precious. I haven't had this in so long. And we can literally just like squeeze the life out of it. This is something that I have been known to do time and time again. And there might even be like symbols of like cobras or like boa constrictors, like these snakes, and as they kind of like coil around a prey, that sometimes when we're in these kind of desperate energies, and it's a totally normal thing, it's no judgment on it, my ass has been so desperate sometimes it's like out of control, but sometimes when like we're really desperate for something, like we will like squeeze all of the life out of it and not even meaning to. And so other things that we're trying to call in some way will actually be kind of like repulsed or like repelled by us, because it's going like, hey, I want to be like involved, but I don't want to be smothered to death. Like, hey, I want to be in your bank account, or like I want to be in your heart, or like I want to be in your life, but like I don't want you to kill me, like because you haven't had love, or because you haven't had money, or because you haven't had a breakthrough or anything so long. And so it's that spirit of peace and surrender of like, oh yeah, you could float towards me and I'm gonna see you and I'm gonna love you and I'm gonna use you and I'm gonna appreciate you, but I'm not gonna try and dominate you. Does that make sense? And again, I feel like a lot of it comes from like the monkey mind here, and they were specifically saying that peace equals, because I'm like, what does peace mean? What is it composed of? What is the recipe? And they were saying it's a combination of acceptance and faith. That peace is accepting where you are, but also accepting what is possible for you and having faith that that which is possible will present. That is peace. I accept where I'm at today. I'm going to do my 1% that I can possibly do, and I'm going to be gentle and forgiving and loving to myself in that process, and have faith, similar to the beavers, that the other dominoes that need to fall, that they will. Because, like Corey Asbury says, I'm in my Father's house, right? So there's also a big conversation about faith. And I also feel like because that song is the Father's house, that there is something about how we create things, how we are the architecture of our experiences oftentimes, and it's not the only way to interpret masculine energy. We see it as constructive, as building, as protective, as physical action. It's not the only thing it can be, but it's a very common way to interpret that energy. And so I feel like this is definitely commentary on how we go and how we try to protect, how we try to provide for ourselves, how we try to be the architectures, again, like of our lives, and really needing more of like a woman's touch kind of in that way, which I thought was really nice. And in that song, there's a line where Corey Asbury sings, failure don't define me, because that's what my Father does. And what they were talking about, and that relates to gentleness and forgiveness for what feels like past failures or missed opportunities. I should have responded to that quicker. I should have hopped on top of that. I should have avoided that altogether. That it's important to remember that we were created in love and pride. sometimes, and this is something has been so prevalent throughout my spiritual journey, is feeling like I'm like at odds with the universe, or it's like I have to fight like for the things that I want, or feeling like we're on the same side but like we're not on the same team necessarily. Like I felt like that with God before. I felt like that in my spiritual life many times before. I don't love that I felt that way. I don't love like looking back on myself and seeing myself like shouting at the sky, right? Like shadow boxing with the universe. I'm not like proud necessarily when I look back on those moments, but I also like, I look back on them and I think, well, at least I was trying to advocate for myself. Like even if I didn't understand what the hell was going on, at least I was like trying to fight for me. And that is like an important thing for me to do in my life. But like remembering that like we weren't created to be in war with the universe, or to be at war with the Father God or the Mother God or the ancestors or any of that, even if sometimes it feels that way, or even if sometimes, again, like we sometimes we got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet in this journey, right? And it can get a little messy, but to remember that like failure doesn't define us, because like actually creation defines us, our divinity defines us, the goodness of our human heart defines us, our art defines us, how we treat ourselves, how we treat people. There are all these other things that define us as people way more than like what we didn't get right or what we overlooked. And that we were created in love, we were created for a purpose, we were created on purpose, and we were created with pride. And that was something that was so beautiful, and it felt so powerful when it came through my channel, of the idea of like God, the gods, a God, whatever you resonate with. I'm not here to define that for us, but like kind of looking down at all of creation and going, you know what, I needed one of you. And to see you, and it's almost like I can see this montage of like you being made from clay and salt and sea, and like filled with spirit and filled with heart, and all of these kind of fun idiosyncrasies. I don't know why this is coming forward. Maybe this is for someone. Those felt posters, remember those old felt posters? I'm probably dating myself, in like the 90s and early 2000s, they almost looked like Lisa Frank. There'd be like animals, or there'd be like some kind of tropical landscape, and the parts you would color would be like kind of just whited out so you could go in with the markers, but the negative space was filled with like felt or like something kind of fuzzy. So it's almost like these 2D, 3D kind of like coloring projects, and you put them up on the wall. That's coming through in my head for some reason. Whatever, I don't know why, but the idea of like all of these idiosyncrasies from like both sides of like your family, right, far away and more recently, kind of trickling through and filling you with idiosyncrasies and freckles, and like that weird left knee thing that you have, right, or like that weird freckle that you have with like your uncle, like all of this like funny little stuff, and like kind of creation looking at you like full of pride and going like, look what I did, like look what I created, I made them, look at them, they're gonna go off, they're gonna do all this fun stuff, oh my god. Like there's something like really excited about that, and it almost reminds me of like this thing that we say in my house about like my shovel, that kids always have a shovel, and it's like it's usually something that seems like silly or stupid, but it's something that like they have a lot of pride in. It's like, look, Aunt Lauren, like look what I made, it's my shovel, it's my bracelet, it's my macaroni necklace. Or like when we go to the beach, if you ever go to the beach, you'll immediately notice that there are kids everywhere, and they're just digging. They're just digging holes. They're just digging moats. They're just making sand castles. And we like to say, the children yearn for the mines. Like there's something about them, like, hey, what are you doing? And they hold up their shovel, and like sand goes everywhere, and they go, look, I bit. Like there's something really sweet, and like they're full of pride and joy about what they're creating, right? Even if like we look at it and we're like, this is imperfect. There's no way we're not gonna get a permit for this sand castle over here. I'll tell you that right now. And sometimes we look at our lives and we look at ourselves as being like these shoddy little sandcastles, right, on like the edge of the shore, just one strong wave away from like being knocked over. But like when God or the universe or the ancestors, when they look at us, they go, holy shit, my Sheila, it's my shovel, that's my kid, that's my baby. Like so like there's something like really sweet. So it's like, who cares if the wave came over and knocked your sandcastle down? Like, look at all this beach, we got nothing but beach, baby. So like there's something really sweet remembering that we were created both in love and with pride in who we are and where we come from and what we're doing, and taking pride in the fact that at least we're trying to figure it out, even if it's messy, even if it's taking too damn long. At least at least we're in the game of life. At least we're working on ourselves. At least we're trying to work with God. At least we're here. At least we're doing it. Imperfectly, but we're doing it, right? Another thing that they were talking about is wombs and warm wombs. Obviously, I have a very feminine-based practice. I got all these mother goddesses around me that I'm absolutely loving. And I have the Rose Oracle, which I want to use for us today as well. There's actually an attunement that I pulled out the attunement card by accident. Maybe not by accident. We'll read it together. And they always are guiding me through learning more about like women's phases, women's cycles, spiritually, physically, emotionally. And a lot that they have been talking about with me in my life personally is about warm wombs. And how women typically, we're not supposed to have like cold wombs. And they always say cold feet, cold wombs, and I'm someone like I always have cold feet. I wonder if it's like a Pisces thing, Pisces, Neptunian energy. It's cold, it's a damp energy. If you've never looked into like the elemental associations with the signs, like some signs are airy and hot, some signs are wet and damp, and they kind of connect them to like Chinese medicine. It's a fun little kind of rabbit hole to go through. And so I have this thing about, as a Pisces, I am like cold and damp. And so like, I feel like for me, that's part of the reason why I have like a fire moon. I'm always like, have craved like spicy foods, hot foods, like stuff like that. And so I always feel like, I don't know, my palates and my tastes are always trying to like balance how like kind of like cool or like damp like the internal world is. That probably sounds, actually take that back. It doesn't sound weird or funny. It makes perfect sense. And if anyone or a group of people were ever going to understand how that connects and makes sense, it's you. So I should stop doing that. But they were talking about, I came across another video this morning about wombs and cold wombs and warm wombs, and how cold wombs, particularly for postpartum mothers, for women that have menstrual cycles, or for human beings that have menstrual cycles, that coldness in the womb, it can create inflammation, it can slow down blood flow, which obviously like we don't want when you have a menstrual cycle. That's part of how we release like literal toxins and waste in the body. And for postpartum mothers that are especially waiting to sever an umbilical cord, like all of these things, that we really want warm wombs, which is why heating packs, warm tea, stuff like that. And she was basically saying like, stop drinking iced coffee on your period because you're cooling off your womb, and you need your womb to be warm to like fully complete like the process of blood flow. But they were, as always, speaking that to me very symbolically and talking about like coolness in the womb, whereas through the sacral we're also like digesting our emotions, going back to those beavers from the meditation this morning, about where we are growing our ideas, our dreams, the fire in the belly that like keeps us going back to the apathy and the lethargy and the consistency, all that stuff we were talking about before. And so there's something here about like, there are certain dreams or there's certain things that like we want, that are sitting in like kind of like these cold wombs, that like the womb needs an Ace of Wands. It needs like a refiring. And part of the coolness of the womb might be a lack of care. It might be a lack of self-care, right? Again, that 1% might have to do with the self-care that is needed to fill your cup up enough to get the rest of the shit done. Maybe that coolness in the womb, or that 1%, is reminding that you were created like in love and in glory, with purpose, on a purpose, for a purpose, in pride, right? Sometimes I can look back at really pivotal moments in my spiritual journey when I was filled with so much love, like from the divine, from my ancestors, from the spirit, that I was like, I can do anything. Like, you know how it feels. Sometimes it feels like drugs. It feels like crack. You're like, I could change the world, right? It's like that kind of, and a lot of that can also be ego and spiritual ego. So you got to find your grounded point. But it's just that idea of like, no, I'm so loved and I feel special and I feel like I have a purpose and I feel like nothing can stop me and I can go through the world just blazing my trail, right? It's like, we need some of it. Maybe we don't need all of it. Maybe we need some of it, whether it's that self-care, whether it is refinding why and where we're passionate about the things that we say we're passionate about, reigniting the fire, like under our dreams. And again, maybe it all comes from love, to love the dream enough to hold it and to nurture it like a little kangaroo in her pouch. Maybe it's the love of the divine that is missing and allowing ourselves to fully receive it in perfect peace. Maybe it's a little bit of that self-support. Maybe it's a little bit of that forgiveness, right? Maybe it's in these different pockets for all of us. but the idea of warming up the womb to allow the blood, the life to flow, right? Whether it's into our dreams, whether it's into ourselves. The second song that had come on the Shufflemancy for us is a song called These Dreams by, what is it called? What do they call this band? It's called The Nether Hour, which is such an interesting name. And there was just the first like little bracket of lyrics is, spare a little candle for me, save some light for me. Figures up ahead, moving in these trees, white skin and linen, perfume on my wrist, and the full moon hangs over these dreams in the mist. And so I definitely feel like, again, there's so much calling us inward this week, and maybe it's that thick veil, maybe it's that like really heightened summer dog days, feels like Halloween presence of spirit, especially when we're close to those solstices and those equinoxes, right? As we start rubbing up against them, that it's almost like, I don't know, what's that song? Say a little prayer for me, forever and ever will stay in your heart. And that, like, there's something in that, like, save a little candle for me, save a little light for me, say a little prayer for me. It's like, there's something about spiritual intimacy that is so important this week. And again, it can only be found kind of in these places of, I want to sort of say like childlike exuberance, when we allow ourselves, thank you, to be playful. And I was getting an image when I sat down in meditation for this reading, of when I was a kid, I went to a lot of babysitters. My mom was a single mom, and I have these very distinct memories of being at this one particular babysitter who, of course, it was the 90s. She had like fucking 12 kids in her house, right? But it was right when like Jurassic Park came out, or at least like one of Jurassic Parks. It was very popular then. And I remember like the Nintendo 64 with like the old Simpsons video games, like throwing tomatoes at like Bart Simpson. I remember Indiana Jones or like Jurassic Park playing on like the big TV in one of the bigger living rooms. I remember pillows everywhere. I remember everyone shouting like, the floor is lava, and like hopping from like coffee table to couch to chair to on top of some kid's head to like all over the place. And they were really bringing that forward. But when I look back, I'm going, that is chaos. Like, that is such a chaotic, like, afternoon that we had. But they kept bringing it up with this idea of, like, bounciness and jubilee and playfulness and, like, that, again, like, that childlike exuberance of, like, the floor is lava, I'm Indiana Jones, and I'm gonna take my babysitter's husband's work shirts and we're gonna tie all the sleeves together to make ourselves something, and we're gonna climb up the banister with it, right? Just that chaotic, naughty resourcefulness of kids just like up to shit, and like needing some of that, and like us finding God or finding that spiritual intimacies in these moments where we are allowed. Maybe that 1% for you was play, but in those childlike exuberant moments of play, and in these very like mature adult like moments of peaceful stillness. Yes, there's another song. That song by Nether Hour is called These Dreams as well. So there might be something about your dream. I want to say like you might be sleeping better, like your dream life might be calming down. You might just be like getting more rest this week, which is nice. There's another song that came on called Heaven Sent by the Steel Drivers. So you might want to put those on a little playlist for yourself this week. I am going to pull a couple cards. I feel like we got most of it out, but I do feel like a little bit itching to get a few of these cards out, so we will. But I do want to read this attunement card to you from the Rose Oracle deck, and I just feel called to. On the back of this card, you will find the Rose Oracle Attunement Altar card. You can use the attunement to ritually connect to your oracle and Mother Rose each time you use it. Mother Rose, you who were present long before we, and you who will continue after we're gone, bless this oracle and all who use it. May it be a gateway for all to return to ourselves, the earth, and each other. May our connection with the voice of our soul be made stronger with every use. May all who touch it feel cherished, loved, held, softened, and seen. May it deliver insight, understanding, compassion, and guidance that's in the highest interest of all beings, past, present, and future. When I'm holding space for another, help me to step out of the way and invite others to connect with the wisdom that exists deep within them. Guide me and all those who use it to embrace our ever-changing true nature, love that, and the seasons of our lives with compassion, understanding, and grace. Show us how we can plant ourselves here more deeply than ever before. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really love that. I wish that like all decks came with a attunement, because when I got this copy of this deck, because this is my second copy, I realized that I hadn't done the attunement on my first deck, and now with this one I have, and it's just, I don't know, I feel a little bit more bonded to it ever since. So what do we have? Healing the mother line, which again might have to do with some of that womb work, that reparenting work, healing, ancestral work, mother line, growing up. I really love this. And with growing up, I almost initially read it as growing in, which I really loved. And something else that I had noticed is my incenses this morning when I'm burning them, instead of just like falling down, they seem to be, the ash seems to be curling under and like within itself. And that always, whenever I see anything kind of appears like a spiral, I always get the impression of like returning things back to ourselves. So there may be something about aspects of our spiritual practice this week that are often used to manifest things external, internal, or things that we do or for others that are meant to be kind of reclaimed this week. Again, there is something about that quiet reclamation of our energy, return to senders, reclaiming kind of spiritual territory for ourselves in a way. So I wonder if this just 1% extra, not 100%, not 50%, 1% extra, being consistent, gentleness, forgiveness, reminding we're made in love and pride, warming up the womb, being really thoughtful and attuned to what it is that we're doing. I wonder if that in a way is healing to the urgent, to the hustle, to the fear-based movement of a lot of our mothers, of like a lot of the people that we have come from, right? The idea of like growing up. When I hear like grow up, I almost hear it with like this very antagonistic, you need to grow up type of energy, which I was talking to my therapist about, right? But this idea of like growing in, and I also think with that, I think about like the billions and billions of like little girls and women who had to grow up because like no one around them saw them as children. Does that make sense? It's the idea of like, well, you need to grow up because we need you to take care of your siblings, or you need to grow up because you need to provide for yourself, or you need to grow up because you need to do this now, or you need to do that. It's always so like punitive. So I feel like, I don't know, like there's something about a restructuring of the masculine energy to help heal like this kind of punishing, punitive energy like around the feminine in some way. Like, no, you don't need to grow up. We need to grow in. We need to come in. We need to grow out. And I feel like that might have been a meditation we did not too long ago about expanding outwardly as opposed to like vertically in some way. Healing, ancestral work. What's at the bottom of the deck? The thorn, protection, boundaries, clear communication. Again, it's almost like the idea of like knowing or sensing that someone, something, especially the someone and the somethings that were meant to like guide us through like our very vulnerable and formative years, not liking us or automatically reserving fault for us and no one else. And a lot of this critical, very punitive energy that just like cuts us off from like the mother, it cuts us off from the father, it cuts us off from authority figures, it cuts us off from mentors, going, well, like you think I'm a piece of shit loser anyway, I'll just shut it down, right? And again, that might have to go to like that beaver, the emotional boundaries and how we navigate spiritually, how do we navigate our emotions, things like that. We have the Phoenix. It's interesting that it's coming out in reverse. The Phoenix is associated with scorpionic energy. Scorpio is associated with the 8th house, the underworld. And so I actually feel like I'm wondering if there might be something coming from like the underbelly or the shadow of like the cool womb of like the feminines in your family, that feel, again, they feel kind of biting, they feel kind of cutting, they feel like steel in some way. And maybe that's why they are not or have yet to experience like a rebirth, because this requires alchemy, that requires a little friction, that requires a little heat, that requires a little fire. And so I feel like it's almost like, I know it sounds, it's almost like trying to pass I don't know. I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna sound kind of gross, so excuse me, but it almost feels like trying to pass like a clot, like when you're on your cycle, like one of those big clots that like is painful and it kind of hurts. Or like trying to pass, like, I keep wanting to say bloodstone, but I don't even know what the fuck that is. But like try to pass like a kidney stone, or like even like with my ear infection, it's like trying, like today's the 3rd day that I'm on antibiotics, so my ear still hurts, but it's like I know that tomorrow it'll feel a lot better, but today it's like, and yesterday I still had to get through like that throbbing. There's something interesting about that, about like hitting some kind of interesting precipice, like some big blockage, with like where the feminine energy in your family hasn't been able to like see through or move past, because it hits this point of like bitterness, it hits this cold stone, it hits like this clot of some sort, and it creates coldness and it creates tightness, and that's not how we, almost like trying to compress it. If I can compress this thing and make it small and I could turn it into a diamond, but like it never sparkles. And again, like what actually needs to happen, it's heat, but not heat from anger, heat from love, heat from care, heat from the hearth, from the safety point, and allowing that to be the thing that gets like the blood moving again, right? It melts away the clot, and then we can move forward. So I definitely feel like, in contrast, it's almost like the more hard or the more difficult or the more challenging like these underbelly energies want to move, it's like the more we're called to navigate in gentility, in love, in softness. It's really quite interesting, actually. What do we have? Gazelle, another very soft feminine energy here. And then we have this Muse Tarot. There's also something visually really interesting. It almost looks like she's trying to meditate, like she's trying to focus, but like she's picking up on like kind of these external energies here, that may be kind of in conflict or contrast. But I also see like these characters beside her, like helping her stay woosad, in nirvana, focused. So if there are moments this week where you're like, Lauren, I am trying to sit in peace, but they keep testing me, it's almost like you may begin to feel like this larger, grander spiritual presence that's like, namaste, girl. And you're sitting there going, like you're doing the thing, but I feel like you're doing it, you're getting through it, you're applying your process where other people are unnecessarily trying to apply pressure, is what I want to say. The Six of Emotions, again, so it's more of this childhood energy really coming forward. I also love how like exuberant and like playful and like role playing like she is right here. And again, this mirror, it's covering everything from the throat chakra all the way to the root. So there's just like a lot of core work. You may even feel guided this week to like work maybe like on your core, crunches, sit-ups, stretching. And then we have the Chariot here. So these are 2 Cancerian cards as well. The Six of Emotions is a Cancerian card. So Cancer placements, Cancer is the direct neighbor of Leo, might be really significant for you right now. But I kind of love the idea of the inner child like reheating or refilling up the womb space with like laughter and fun and giggles. And that somehow leading to, you see how these bloop, bloop, and then all of a sudden they start pouring right from the sacral. And all of a sudden, horses talk about independence. They talk about liberation. They also talk about sexuality, which feels like a freeing up of like those lower energy centers. And all of a sudden, it's like there's like this stampede. There's all of this force and this momentum behind us, like moving into August. Three of Emotions. Okay. All right, more of these Cancerian cards. And then we have the Five of Emotions. We have the Five of Cups here. So this is a lot of watery energy for sure. What do we have here? The Muse of Materials. Okay, so we have the King of Pentacles at the bottom here. I like that. This reminds me, again, a bit of like the beaver. It's like we have all of this water, and then here we have a pathway through it. The Three of Emotions in this deck also always reminds me of the Hecate, and her energy has been coming through very strongly the last 3 days. And so you may be seeing signs and omens of her, or technically other lunar deities like Diana, like Artemis. You might be seeing greyhounds. And then we have the 6 of material. So I like that we're seeing 3s, we're seeing 6s. I like that. Those are very harmonious numbers. When I move, you move. Just like this. You may also feel, yeah. So as mentioned before, I do feel like there are these pockets where the inner child starts to like laugh and giggle and like try to fill up the inside and warm it up, which creates like a lot of freedom and momentum of energy as we move into August. Just like this character right here, I feel like the 3 and the 5 of cups is confirming what I said about potential like distractions coming in, and then assistance, because if you notice there's 3 characters right here as well. So there may be moments where it's like you get a little caught up on something, or you're having this difficulty digesting or processing something, but then there is this help, or again a sign, an omen, a symbol of breakthrough or a favor. Maybe it comes from Jesus. Maybe it comes from the Hecate for you. And it helps you. I always look at her as like defrosting, and begin to help defrost the womb area. This feels like she's actually like actively like inside the womb. Even how these kind of push inside like a waistline to go in with the moon and like warm it up. And that's the 6 of materials. It's almost like, I almost feel like there's like a spiritual presence, whether it's God or whether it's the Hecate or whether it's Jesus or whether it's an ancestor, and it's like, do it like this. And you're like, okay, I'm going to do it like this. And there's like this mirroring between what like the spirit is doing and like what you're doing. So it's like you're like twins. You like mimic and mirror each other with the Ace of Emotions. And then it's like, you come up for air. The water is not only now unfrozen in the womb, but now there's also like a lot to show for it. There's life in here, especially with these starfish. So you might be seeing 17 in the star a lot this week as well. Aphrodite energy. And then here you are. Now you're back in earth energy. That's really gorgeous, actually. Now we have the 4 of materials. It's like you're pulling them all up as blooms. And then you're getting, with the 2 of Pentacles here, you're getting to kind of like separate and divide. And that might be something that you didn't do in the past, right? Maybe love came in, maybe money came in, or maybe a blessing or an opportunity. And maybe you were like, I have to hoard it all. I can't do anything with it, or I have to absorb it all, or I have to squeeze it too tightly. And now you're going, no, actually I'm going to combine them. Like these are so big. You're like, I'm going to take these 2 blooms over here. I'll combine them into one. I'll combine the 2 into another. I'll save one. I'll spend one. I'll keep this here. I'll put that there. And then here you have the Hierophant. Here's this emotional intimacy. So there actually also might be, I want to say like a new secret place, a new place in meditation, a new place in the physical that you like to go, or that in some way represents God to you. Like there's a certain tree that I'm like especially connected with. There's a certain like river that I always feel has added spiritual energy. Sometimes new places appear to me in my meditations, and I'm like, this is a holy place, right? Even if it's intangible in some way, where I get to go and like commune with the divine. So I see that appearing for you as well. I really like that. Really gorgeous. Okay, and then the World Cosmos. So here we're about done. I always call this like my Universe FM card, like my Sirius FM card. It's like cosmic radio is what this always feels like to me. So I also think moving through the end of this month and into the first few days of August, there's also something about intuitive attunement, particularly for those of you that are claircognizant and clairaudient. And maybe clairvoyant too, with this world underneath her eyes. But I almost feel as though we being able to understand more clearly. Visions get clear. The understanding is more understood than it has been in the past. So I also see like an upgrade and attunement of intuitive gifts and abilities this week as well. So I love this. So this is what I have. A long one, but a good one, I think. I hope this is helpful. I'm almost tempted to post this on YouTube because this feels like gushy and good for this week. I almost feel like we should share the wealth a little more, but I'll decide that in the next few minutes. But I love you. I really hope this was helpful. I know this was a lot of food for thought, but I hope you enjoyed it and it set us up well for the week ahead. Go check out our meditation on beavers. We are going to do a tarot group this week. I think we're going to do it on Thursday. I'm going to double check, but I'll definitely put the link in the Patreon for you. I love you so much. Tell your friends about the Patreon. Tell them to come join us for our tarot groups. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.